Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back here on Friday for another episode. We're going to look back at the final week of fall camp as we move into game week, less than a week away for the season opener against Cincinnati. And tonight we do have the season opener for the #1 Nebraska volleyball team. They'll be taking on third-ranked Pitt. So we're going to look ahead to that match, offer up some season predictions. We're going to talk a little bit of recruiting, so some preseason football. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comments section after the video. And Danny, how are you on this Friday morning?
I'm good. It's feeling a little chilly in the air. It's starting to feel like fall a little bit. We are 6 days away from the football opener. Tonight is the volleyball opener. So fall is unfortunately here. I feel like summer went way too fast.
It always does go fast. Yeah. And I can't believe we're 6 days away. Pinch
I
me at
know.
this point. I mean, 6
I
days.
know.
Oh, I can't wait. I literally can't wait for next week. And yeah, some interesting, we didn't really talk about this kind of in our show prep, but there was some interesting news kind of from Pete Nakos talking about quarterbacks and how much they make. Dylan Raiola, making $3 million this year, not all from the school, everybody. So let's calm down. A lot of it coming from Adidas and, Panera Bread and some of his NIL affiliates. But I was interested that he is one of the higher paid quarterbacks, although I think maybe Duke's quarterback might be like the highest paid quarterback this actual season, which I think is
Philippe
interesting when
Murphy,
you look at
if I'm not mistaken.
he went to Texas. There's a guy,
That's right. Oh gosh.
shoot, I'm blanking on his name. He went from Tulane to Duke,
Yep.
and and he's like making like 6 million this year. So there's by like Bryce Underwood's, I think about 3, Dylan's at 3, Carson Beck, I think, is about 3, with he could get up to 6, depending on, I think he's got some, incentives. Nico is about Nico and Joey Aguilar, the guy who replaced him in Tennessee, are both about 1.2.
Darian Mensah, the Duke quarterback.
Yeah, Darian Mensah. But what also interested me is I did not really anticipate this, but Brendan Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback, actually is on the list of quarterbacks who will be making over $1 million. I think they have him at 1.2 million. So maybe the Bearcats a little bit more talented than we thought, at least at the quarterback position. I mean, I knew he was talented, but I didn't necessarily. I just, for some reason, didn't have it in my radar that he's $1 million quarterback.
He's the one guy I'm afraid of for Cincinnati, honestly. We're going to probably get into this more next week, but Brendan Sorsby is a very talented quarterback, and I know he plays on a below average Cincinnati program, but I'm not saying Cincinnati's world beaters by any means, but Brendan Sorsby is certainly a very talented quarterback that the defense should watch out for.
Yeah, more about him, and then the running back. They had a pretty good running game last year too, and they brought in Tony Walker as a transfer. So yeah, I mean it's going to be an interesting matchup. Yeah, we will get into that more next week. We'll have tons of previews and things like that for the Kansas City Classic, man. Arrowhead Stadium. Going to be fun though. I remember them playing the Huskers playing Oklahoma State at Arrowhead a couple times. So it's not like this will be the first time they've played at Arrowhead Stadium. And this has kind of been the last week of preparation with fall camp. Marcus Satterfield met with the media last week. We had met the first episode of the Matt Rule podcast on Thursday with Javin Wright. So, things kind of wrapping up there. But what are kind of some of your final takeaways, I guess, nuggets or thoughts from fall camp this week? Either things you've read or heard, or just things that players, coaches said this week.
Well, one of the things, and it's not even really an analysis point, it was just Marcus Satterfield talking about Mac Markway. I mean, the kid had a devastating injury for the second year in a row, and it would be easy for him to hang his head and not want to be around the program. But Satterfield said, "quote He comes and eats with us every day. He doesn't come to all the meetings because he's doing rehab in the training room. He's around the guys all the time. He's at practice. He's on the sidelines. He helps me do personnel. He's there helping coach the young guys, and he's staying involved. Once we heard what happened, it was a tragedy. We're here for him, and we're going to get through it, and we're all going to be better for it." And again, not an analysis point, not a talking point, but I really think it shows the value of being a good team and being a good teammate. And so that was really interesting to see amidst all the analysis and all the previews and stuff like that. And I'm happy he's in better spirits and around the team.
Yeah, and terrible news for Mac Markaway. I mean, my heart really goes out to him after rehabbing. But I do think that does, shine a light into the culture that Nebraska has built. They have a strong, I think, brotherhood. I do think that these guys really do love and care about each other, and that is important. The best teams are the ones who have those relationships, the teams that win championships. That you hear them talk about culture, you hear them talk about, all that type of stuff. So even though, it does sound a little bit corny and all that, but it's true for a reason. And I think that Matt Rule has built a great culture at Nebraska, and hopefully, we'll see we'll see results of that this season. And yeah, I guess, let's get into it with the podcast, with the Matt Rule podcast. What are your thoughts on, Matt Rule kind of launching this thing?
I know everybody, who wants the '90s back doesn't like it, but I love it. I mean, it's something that multiple players and multiple teams have done. It's something that coaches do, and I think it's another way to give exposure to the University of Nebraska. And Matt Rule is a very good spokesman for the university. He's a very good speaker, and people can point to tradition and facilities and all that happy stuff, but let's be honest, none of the recruits and even, some of the players on the roster were born the last time Nebraska won anything meaningful. So, I mean, tradition can only go so far, especially as you have, current teams throwing out millions of dollars and things like that. And, so I really like the podcast. I think Matt Rule's perfect for a podcast. And I know you don't necessarily agree with it, but I like how we're kind of adjusting to the times here. About damn time. It took way too long to adjust to the time. We got an NIL office 3 years ago, and now we're finally at a good point with that. So I'm glad that Nebraska is kind of adjusting and kind of getting into the mix there with what every other team is doing.
Yeah, I think was good for Matt to like with the uniforms. He said we're not gonna just because some people don't like it we're not going to be, stop doing cool things because, some people may not like it or appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, and truthfully, my opinion doesn't matter at all. And I think it will be very cool. I'm sure that I will, end up listening. I hope that he gets, like I said, off the air. I hope he gets Tom Osborne on there, like Frank Solich. I think it could lead to some really cool content. I do, there is part of me, I wish that, maybe they had released, started the first episode like in January, postseason. I think that would have hit a little bit better,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. Honestly, it's just, personally, yeah, like I said, I wish that my football coach was just, like watching film all the time, 24 hours a day, I guess. But I mean, you have to have some, step and break away from the game too. And yeah, I understand, the selling point and this, personally, I don't think it's going to make much of an impact, one way or the other. I think the best selling point for Nebraska and any program, I think, is just winning, and I think we've got all the facilities. We've got everything that you could want, as far as like trying to make yourself into an NFL player. And I think the thing that's, keeping us from getting like the kinds of players that, Ohio State and everybody's getting outside of the money and stuff, which I think we're getting to, we just have to start winning like they do. And it's not going to be easy, but that's the biggest selling point, beating teams like Michigan, beating teams like USC when we have hopefully our blackout on a, hopefully the Big Ten works with us and makes that a night game. Because that's going to be really lame if we have the blackout at a 2:30 kickoff. But anyway, I do like that. I do like some of these things that Matt Rule's doing. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of the podcast, truth be told, I don't think it's going to, that's not going to be the reason they lose to Cincinnati. Like if they, but at the same time, if they do somehow lose to Cincinnati, that people are going to come back. Well, maybe you shouldn't have been doing that podcast last week. You know what I mean? So it's just like you open yourself up to
like
stuff
you?
that. Yeah, I mean, I probably won't say that, but maybe I will.
I can see it now next Monday.
Maybe in my what's the my post game doldrums where I just get to a place where I can't function as a normal human being because Nebraska's broken my brain. Then
Honestly,
maybe I'll
we
be
should
like,
put a GoPro on you for game day, and that should be part of our YouTube channel. Just Chris on game day with a GoPro
yeah,
and just filming you.
Yelling and throwing things, and I don't throw things anymore because I learned that you can break things. So I only try to throw things that can't break.
I
Like
can't
my
tell you how many
jerseys.
PlayStation controllers I've broken. Like, and then I learned like the controllers are like $70. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. But man, it's hard. But yeah, I'm excited.
It is hard. You do want to just chuck it.
Oh yeah,
but the blackout is going to be sweet. It is going to be really sweet. I
hopefully
think
the jerseys aren't the only thing blacking out after the USC game as I celebrate a victory. But we'll see. It reminds me of the Perryman Panthers. You know what I mean? Like people say Iowa State, but the first thing I thought of was the Perryman Panthers.
That's cool. I didn't honestly. I'm trying to think who. wasn't a particular team that came to mind because I don't think none of my teams have ever really done the blackout. So and I've always wanted Nebraska to do it, and so yeah, I think it's
And
pretty
again,
cool.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't understand like the reluctance to that. Maybe yeah, I don't know. And then maybe I am being a boomer as it stands with the podcasting. But I personally I do wish that Matt Rule would do like less interviews. That's just me personally. I've just always thought that, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with doing extra interviews. I just sometimes like I just wish at times that the entire program they just talk a little bit less. Like does Matt Rule need to be out there being like Dylan Raiola is going to be one of the best players in college football? Like, yes, I like that as a blogger. I like to hear that as a fan, but does that need to be said? Like, can he just go out there and prove it? I mean, does Dylan Raiola need to be out here like Nebraska deserves to win and all? Like, it's not that big of a deal, and I don't think it makes that big of a difference. But I would like a little bit to just see a little less talking and just a little more doing. Like, let's go do it and stop talking about it. So that's kind of my main point with the podcast.
Well, I think we're so used to limited media access over the years that Matt Rule and stuff has kind of been a breath of fresh air, or not, depending on how you look at it. Like you, generally speaking, but I
mean, and it is good for fans. I think it's good for fans. Fans want to hear for what the coach says. Most fans do. I'm probably the opposite in that way, and I just like I don't know. I wish he was a little more coach speaky sometimes, but he is good for media and he is fun for fans. And I think we're probably just all worried too much. Like, I think this is all stuff that, we're not going to be caring about or worrying about or talking about once they start winning more games.
I'm not worried about it. It's funny to see, like, not you necessarily, but all the other people get really upset about the blackout jerseys and like the podcast and blah 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 blah. Like,
Yeah.
so what? I mean,
Yeah.
if they go 0-12 or whatever, then you could say like maybe you should do that. But I mean, it's a new era, and Nebraska fans have had a hard time adjusting to anything new. Same thing with the blackout jerseys. I hope they put them in NCAA, and I'm definitely going to get a blackout jersey. But I think it's about time that Nebraska, it kind of gets with the times, and even not necessarily getting with the times in this way, but getting that new field with the new end zones, the sharp red end zones. I do wonder how the out of bounds line is going to work. I think it might be a little tough to see, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully, it doesn't take away a touchdown.
And maybe I don't know. Maybe it will. With having our red defenders, maybe it'll make it harder for teams to see our defenders. Yeah. So maybe that'll blend it in a little bit, and we'll get an interception or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I do like the end zone. Yeah, and I think Matt Rule's doing a great job. I think he's done everything that he needs to do to get this program, head in the right direction. Now we just got to deliver on the field this season. That'll start next Thursday. We still don't know who the starting offensive line is going to be. With Elijah Pritchett and Gunnar Gatula and Teddy Prohashka, those three are still battling it out. What's your read on that situation? Who do you think is going to be the starting tackles next week?
Have you heard anything on Elijah Pritchett? I haven't heard anything. I know there was stuff circulating. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't like to spread rumors, but
I mean, the only thing I saw, which I think is fair game, the Husker Online had their tunnel talk this morning, and Steve Sipple wrote some stuff about Pritchett, like getting to class on time, doing things like that. It was like, basically was like, if he can do all the little things like that, he can be a really great player. So I'm just reading between the lines. I don't know if there's been missed meetings. It seems like there's something happened there.
Sounds like maybe normal college kid stuff, honestly.
I mean, normal college. Yeah, these guys are 18, 19, 20. I mean, he's a little bit older because he's not a freshman, but so, but yeah, I don't. There was other talk. I don't think that I think he's going to be available for the game. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't. I'd be surprised if he didn't start. Honestly, I really would be surprised if Elijah Pritchett didn't start. Like, I know that leaves you a tough choice, but I'm not saying that you should play him because you paid him what you did, but there's a reason that you paid him that money, right? So, like, I mean, there should be some return on that investment, I would say. And how you gonna, if he's like close, if he's terrible, obviously you can't pay him. You just have to kind of eat that money. But I think he's looked good in camp. So I don't know. It's a tough battle, and I feel like all three of those guys are probably going to play next Thursday. So
I'd say probably Pritchett and Prohashka for the tackles. I mean, and quite honestly, I'm just waiting to see what he looks like on game time. I mean, we can get all the news reports and the practice reports and this and things like that, but it means more. And the real test is when the pads start flying and it's real game action. If he looks good in game action, then we'll feel a lot more comfortable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So
Practice is
yeah.
such a sluggish thing sometimes, and
Yeah, no, for sure. It's you get into the camp grind, and yeah, and I think Gatula will play too. It would make sense having him as like your swing tackle too.
yeah.
Because he's
Mhm.
he's played on the left side. I think he could play on the right side. Who knows if Teddy Prohashka starts, how long he's going to make it? If he can make it through 12 games. I mean,
Yeah,
he never has.
yeah,
And that's nothing against Teddy. He just
yeah,
his body has never held up. So yeah, even though we're having these conversations, like my prediction, all three of these guys will start games for Nebraska this year. Elijah Pritchett, Gunnar Gatula, Teddy Prohashka, they will all start games this year for Nebraska. So that's just that. I mean, that's just if that's wrong, I mean, the chances of it being wrong aren't very high mathematically because that's just the way football works. You have injuries, you have guys get hurt, you get a knee banged up, or so.
mhm,
But the depth, I think, is the thing overall because you never want to be in that situation. That's where we were like the past couple of years. Like, oh man, we get one injury on the offensive line because you've got like five serviceable players and then nobody
yeah,
else. Whereas this team, I feel like you have eight players who are more than serviceable, who I would
yep.
feel very good about starting. And I think there's even some young guys like Gibson, who unfortunately got injured recently. Gibson, Pyle, Grant Bricks. I think some of those guys are making a name for themselves too.
I'd feel comfortable putting them out there too. I mean, I really do
Hmm.
think they're talented players. They may not be ready, like 100% ready, but also the experience is important for them to have. And like you said, we have more depth than we've had in the past 5 years, and honestly, some of the best chances to see what they can do is trial by fire. So we have very talented linemen, and we have a very deep offensive line room. And like you said, it's basically like a mix and match type thing. I'd be comfortable with any combination starting, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and the on defense, I thought an interesting thing that Steve Sipple brought up. He was like, who would be Nebraska's best defensive player? And Riley Van Poppel was a name that he kind of brought up. And it is interesting because even though he doesn't see the field, even if these guys don't see the field, they're still working and improving, especially on the line. So sometimes you can jump up and make a big impact. So I do think that Van Poppel is going to have a big impact this season. I would say Sayre Wright's going to be our best defensive player. And then I think Vincent Shavers probably be in that conversation too. Deshaun McCullough, and then yeah, Riley Van Poppel. That wouldn't surprise me. It still makes me wish like, oh, probably maybe should have played him a little more last year. But if we get 3 seasons out of him, it will be worth having that
Yeah.
red shirt. So we'll see what happens there. But I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about him this season.
Yeah, I know it was a tough decision to redshirt him because you wanted to play him a little bit last year, and we could have used him. But I think for the future of the program, especially 3 seasons with you know, a defensive line coach that just came in and Terry Braden, hopefully 3 seasons. I think that's important too for the continuity. And I definitely see Riley Van Poppel becoming our most impactful defensive player. I think he's really good at filling gaps. He's a really physical player. I mean, you and I mentioned it the other day. We saw a picture of him, and he absolutely towered over everybody. So he's definitely ready to go. And I'm trying to think who I think the most impactful defensive player is going to be. You think it's going to be Riley? Is
I
that
think
your?
I would say Sayre right, and then
But
Shavers too. I think Riley's like in my top 3, 4.
what about McGahee? What do you think? Because I like McGahee too. I haven't heard too much about him. But
I think he's going to have a good season. Yeah, but I don't. No, he wouldn't be in my top group. My top 5 probably would be Sayre Wright, Shavers, Desan McCullough, Riley Van Poppel, and then last one's kind of tough.
for number 5, I'm going to go for me Andrew Marshall.
I was leaning that way too, so I'll probably go with Andrew Marshall. But yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. Or it might be one of those linebackers. There's a lot of guys who could be in the conversation for that last spot. So yeah, I think this defense should be fun to watch. And looking at the end of fall camp, I'm guessing we'll probably get a starting lineup maybe Monday. I'm not sure. They used to release kind of their depth chart, so it'd be fun if they did it today. It'd be nice if they did it today, but I'm guessing probably Monday. We're just kind of on a weird time frame here
Yeah.
with because if you're going with your normal game week, today would be basically Sunday, and so then tomorrow Saturday would be like your Monday, and so I'm
So
just
maybe
kind of,
tomorrow.
yeah. So maybe tomorrow they'll do it, or maybe they'll just wait and have it Monday. Because I don't, I should have checked, but I'm not sure if Matt Rule's like doing a press conference. I'm assuming he's doing it Monday.
Yeah.
So I guess just for we'll have things a little bit later than usual, just based on in terms of where we are in the week. But we should have the answer to all those questions really soon. And receiver, running back should be interesting. We got some other guys there. Vincent Genatoni,
Yep.
guy played for my Montana Grizzlies for a year. Dynamic athlete. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make on the offense playing running back, but with his speed and his tackling ability, I definitely think he can be utilized on special teams. Heard some positive buzz about Caleb Benning as another guy I think could be a dynamic on special teams. I'm high on his future. I really think he's going to be a good player for Nebraska football.
Tony came in as a linebacker, right? Initially?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a
Yeah, and
special teams player, yeah.
Yeah, he's been clocked. I mean, he has done some really impressive speeds. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but over 20 miles an hour. I mean, he's really been. So I saw that, and Connor Booth, I think, has been generating some positive buzz too. So even though it felt like Nebraska didn't have a ton of options at running back, it feels like they do have a few options, at running back. Obviously with Isaiah Mosey as well. So
I've heard the good things about Isaiah Mosey too, and just before we go on to the next point, this is just a good example of what Matt Rule and his coaching staff can do: identifying athletes and then putting them where they fit the best or where they best see fit, and so I think it's going to be. I know we were still worried about the running back depth, and I'm still a little bit worried because you never know how Mosey's going to pan out or Genatoni or the injuries that could happen at the position. But I feel a lot better about the depth there.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm getting pretty excited about the Emmett Johnson, but I'm pretty excited actually about Mackay Nelson or Mecky Nelson, Mackay Nelson. I always mess that name up. I'm sorry. And oh my gosh, I was just talking about Mosey, Isaiah Mosey. Geez, my brain is not functioning well. But I'm really excited about the natural running ability that both of those guys have. And I do need to see them be able to pass protect and all that, because you don't want to have like the other defense, the defense being like, oh, Mosey's coming in, we know he can't pass protect, so we know that they're going to run the ball type thing. So that I think will determine probably how much they play, because it's like I feel like Nebraska is going to want to do a fair amount of shotgun running, and I think there is something to that when you can spread out a team and you're like, okay, well, we've got Isaiah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, Dane Key, and Cortez Mills out here. So you're going to probably either have to play a light box or you're going to be, one-on-one across the board. So, kind of make that decision. And then that gives your quarterback a lot of things to do too. I mean, we saw, how many years did we see Peyton Manning, sit there and check out of, pass plays to run plays? When you really get a good quarterback and you have favorable matchups, you can do that because like if you can run against a 5-man box, then if defenses are going to give you that, then you should run against it all day. And I'd love to see Nebraska take advantage of some of that stuff, because then it's like defenses are going to be in this pick your poison situation, and that's going to be a really fun game to play for Dylan Raiola and Dana Holgorsen.
I'll ask this question again because we're wrapping up fall camp. I asked it in the middle last time, but how long until you think we see the Ja'Cory Barney Cortez Mills combo as a solid combo on the field?
I think they'll be on there right away. I really do. I think
so I'm excited about that. That's why I asked.
I think Dane Key's the clear number one. Yep. I think Hunter and Barney are right there. I think Cortez Mills is probably slight below them. But yeah, I fully expect Cortez Mills to be targeted Thursday night. I would be surprised if he wasn't. I think Ja'Cory Barney, I think these guys are going to get, you got the speed. Like, you got to test people deep. Take some shots with Isaiah Hunter. Like, that's one thing I think that Holgorsen's not going to shy away from is, when you have these athletes, like it's great to have them, but you have to try to take advantage of them. And, I've seen other programs that not do that. I mean, Michigan for years, they had Nico Collins. I mean, the guy who's maybe the best receiver in the NFL this year. And it was like Dean Smith when he had Michael Jordan. They just would not be like, throw jump balls. They just wouldn't do it. I don't know. It wasn't in their, it was in their purview to just be super conservative. And when you have those athletes, like, throw the ball down the field, because you know what, there's a few things that can happen, but there's probably what, 3 or 4 things. You can have a completion, a flag, an incompletion, and interception. Most of those things are good for the offense. So I mean, let those guys go and make plays, and I think it's gonna put defenses in a world of hurt. So I really hope that the offense kind of has that aggressive mindset that Matt Rule kind of teased last year, but we just didn't quite see that come to fruition.
And quite honestly, if the quarterback has a strong enough arm, an interception on a deep ball is like a punt, so you can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I'm hoping for that aggressive offense too. I just think there was some disconnect, and we saw it even in 2023 between him and Marcus Satterfield. And I think Matt Rule wanted to do one thing, and Satterfield wanted to do the other, and they didn't have the athletes. And now, on the Satterfield front, I do think he truly is going to be a better tight ends coach than an offensive coordinator. I feel like that's a much better role for him. We'll see what the production is in the tight end room, but I like what I've seen from him so far. Just the way he's been able to coach the players, and also getting the commitment from Luke Sorensen. I know it's a small sample size, but I'm almost more pleased with what he's done as a tight ends coach so far than an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think he's doing a better job there. So, yeah, that'll be really quickly before we get to some volleyball. I did want to talk about a couple of recruiting things, so we can transition really quickly. So we talked the other day about potential, flips, guys we would want to flip. To Darius Hughes, 6 foot, 175 from Florida. He's ranked 328th overall. He's going to be taking an official visit this fall, according to John Garcia of Rivals. He visited unofficially over the summer. He's also expected to visit Colorado and Miami, so Nebraska's not the only one trying to flip him, but it does feel like he's going to flip from Florida State. It's just a matter of when and to who. So that would be a nice addition for Nebraska if they could add a 4-star to this 2026 class.
More corner depth. You can never have too much corner depth, especially in today's version of the Big Ten or the Big 75 or whatever you want to call it. He's a great athlete. He's, very quick to the ball, very strong. He's the type of player that you can build a secondary around. And you remember last summer and even last year when we struggled at the cornerback position with depth. And over this last year or so, we've been able to replenish the room, and now it seems like we're making it a priority area and an area of focus. So landing Hughes would just add to that, and he would be a solid addition.
Yeah, and he's a guy I think that could play nickel, he could play safety, he could play cornerback. So that would be a nice pickup to this 2026 class. And then looking to 2027, we did have the in-state commitment of Torrey Pittman, the number 1 player in the state of Nebraska, 5-star recruit. The Huskers are trending in a very good direction with Matt Erickson, who 6'8", about 290 pounds. He's ranked as a 3-star, 591 overall right now via the Rivals industry rankings for the 2027 class. He's visited Nebraska a bunch of times already. Steve Wiltfong of Rivals reported on Thursday that he's going to be, or I guess this might have been on Wednesday, but he's going to be visiting for for 6, I guess, of Nebraska's home games. So, to me, like even before Torrey Pittman committed, I predicted Matt Erickson's going to commit at some point, in the near future, maybe this fall. I feel like on one of these 6 visits, Matt Erickson is going to commit. I mean, it's just like, come on, buddy. We know you're going to be a Nebraska Cornhusker. Just pull the trigger at this point. What do you wait?
I was going to say we're probably going to see a commitment on one of those visits, hopefully. But no, he's a really good player. He's a guy that I feel can outplay his ranking, and he has an offer sheet as an offensive lineman that I like to see. The Minnesotas, the Kansas State, Iowa State, so I really, really like Erickson. And I think we will see a commitment from him on one of these visits, especially if he's visiting for every home game. And, he would be another great addition. Nebraska's done a really solid job, in my opinion, of maybe not getting all 4-star linemen, but getting some really, really talented players that they can develop, and guys that can stay with the program and develop. And I think Erickson could definitely fall into that category.
Yeah, and he, I do think he's a guy that can outplay his ranking. 6'8", really talented. Nebraska's recruited him, very hard from the beginning. And that is one thing about in-state recruiting, is that I know that maybe Nebraska's not focusing on it as much. They're not like trying to, we have to get the best players from Nebraska. But when there are good players from Nebraska, they do get them. And Matt Erickson's a great example of this. They have been on him. I think they were one of his first offers. I mean, he's been visiting since even before his sophomore season. Like, he's been on the radar for quite a while, and I've seen numerous pictures with him and Matt Rule, and I think that's why Nebraska is where they are. They've prioritized him. They're like, this is a guy who could be a starting tackle for our program, and he's in our own backyard. We've struggled to recruit some tackles, and so I think this is going to be a slam dunk. And he's probably the most likely guy to be the next commitment for Nebraska football, whether it's in 2026 or 2027. My prediction is that it would be Matt Erickson.
And you talk about prioritizing recruits. When they wanted Troy Pittman, they got him, and they got him quick. And so I do think they're still going to recruit the state. I just think they're going to be more selective about who they take. I mean, obviously, you can't say no to Troy Pittman. But when Matt Rule wants an in-state recruit, like you said, he goes up and gets them. So I predict Matt Erickson will be a Husker, and I think it's just a matter of when.
And speaking of, before we switch to volleyball, one final thing. I don't want to go to football, then volleyball, and bounce back. Thomas Fedoni had a touchdown last night against our New England Patriots in the preseason. He had a 2-point conversion recently, so he definitely is trending up. Would have been nice to see some more of that happening at Nebraska, but it was a tough situation with his career with the injuries and the turnover at quarterbacks and yada yada yada. But it's good to see Thomas Fedoni finally, kind of reaching his potential, it seems. And I think a good chance to make this 53-man roster for the New York Giants.
Oh, yeah. No, he had a touchdown, and then he went down to the 1-yard line on another pass where he really ran really well after the catch. And I think it was just one of those situations where he was done with Nebraska. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but sometimes you just need a change of scenery, a fresh start. I mean, he had gone through so much with the program with his injuries and playing time and things like that. So I think getting to New York was good for him, and now he's able to carve out a name for himself somewhere else. It's like somebody leaving their hometown and go start their life over and get a fresh start on things. I think that's what happened with Thomas Fedoni, so I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, and hopefully him and all the other guys, that got drafted, signed their way into the NFL. Hopefully they're able to make rosters, make practice squads, get employed, all that type of stuff. So volleyball tonight, we've got the, AVCA, the coaches. It's kind of the kickoff for the season. 10, there's basically 5, top 10 matchups coming in over the next 3 days at Pinnacle Bank Arena. This will be the first time that the Nebraska volleyball teams, played inside the vault. So that'll be exciting. I saw they had a picture on social media. It's looking incredible, like we knew that it would. But yes, so 6 p.m. Central Time, Fox Sports, or I mean not Fox, but just on Fox. Number 1 Nebraska, number 3 Pittsburgh. The run to the national championship starts tonight. So let's get into, I guess, we'll start with our season predictions. Just what are some of your predictions for the season? Do you think Nebraska will finally bring home the national championship in volleyball this year?
Yeah, I think when you look at this roster, with the veteran players as well as the talented freshmen waiting in the wings, I think I'm not going to say national championship or bust, but I think this is as good a chance as any for them to win it. I mean, you look just at the talent on this team and how well they performed in their scrimmage a couple weekends ago, and I think this team is built to win it all.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I think, they're ranked number 1 for a reason. And, Danny Busboom-Kelly, the new head coach, said she ranked them number 1 in her poll for a reason. They're pretty talented. They've got numerous, I would say, Big Ten and National Player of the Year candidates, Harper Murray, Andy Jackson. I think they're both legitimate candidates to, be the best player, at least in the Big Ten Conference, maybe, beyond. Olivia Babcock, who's playing for Pittsburgh, is the reigning National Player of the Year, so she'll probably be hard to unseat with that, but I would not put it past Harper Murray. I really feel like she is due for not a breakout season, because she's a 2-time All-American, but just I think she's going to take it to a new level this year. I think she's going to be even better as a server. She already led Nebraska in aces, but I think she'll be even better this year. I think she'll be a more efficient hitter, and just having a different perspective. She is going to have to be without John Cook, but I think Danny Busboom-Kelly, she knocked this Pittsburgh team out in the national semifinal last year as the coach at Louisville. So this is going to be a high level team, and I think I do believe Nebraska will win the national championship, but I also believe that Harper Murray will be the Big Ten Player of the Year.
And it was really telling when the head coaching change was announced and there were no transfers, right? And I think
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
believe in what Danny Busboom Kelly is doing. I mean, one player I'm watching for is Rebecca Alik. I mean, she had a tremendous year last year, 357 hitting percentage and just a little over 1.4 blocks per set, and she's shown brightly in the scrimmage as well. So I think she's due for another big year. All Big Ten second team in 2022 and 2023, like Harper Murray. She's not a hidden secret anymore. She's a very talented player, but I think this is a year where she could take her skills to an even higher level.
Yeah, I think you could say the same thing as well about Andy Jackson. Danny Busboom Kelly has opened up, the chance to play more in the back row, have some back row attacks for Andy Jackson, which isn't really, she didn't do that under John Cook. She's potentially going to have some more opportunities to serve, and if they can have her, out there and not have to sub her out of that back row, that could be, a game changer and give her more opportunities because I mean she's an incredible athlete. She's one of the best hitters. She might be the best hitter in college volleyball, honestly. Like when she does that slide shot, like you know just about every time that she's going to score on that. Like I don't know that you can stop it. I don't know that you can block that shot. I mean, I think you could say the same thing about Harper Murray, but just with Andy Jackson's size, I mean, being 6'5" and her length, and just she is a force. And so I really think that they're going to unlock some of her attacking abilities. Having Bergen Riley again, Flynn Campbell, with another setter. Lainey Choboy's going to have to step in for Lexi Rodriguez, which is going to be a key thing. I do think, as much as we want to talk about the hitting and stuff, the reason that Nebraska's made the last two, Final Fours of the championship game and the semifinal last year is they were an incredible defensive team. So, can they keep that up without Lexi Rodriguez? I think they can, but that's one of the question marks that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just wanted to mention another volleyball note. Layla Blackwell signed with the Omaha Supernovas yesterday, so that was kind of cool to see
Nice.
her back in Lincoln and back with John Cook. It seems just like the Omaha Supernovas are becoming a Nebraska alumni farm team, which is nothing wrong with that. But it's really cool what John Cook is doing to keep his name in Nebraska, in the state where he's made such an impact on volleyball, and it's cool to see everything kind of come full circle. And I can almost bet that he's keeping in touch with this year's volleyball team too.
Oh, I'm sure, and I think I'm pretty sure he's going to be announced doing some color commentary.
Yep,
For
that's right. They announced that back in April. Yep, for I think Big Ten Network, if I'm not mistaken.
So John Cook won't be too far away from the game of volleyball. So it's going to be, it is very commendable though for him to step away maybe and do. I don't want to say what's best for the program, but just it's hard for people to walk away when they're still near the top of their game, and I think he did that in his mind in what was best for the program, and so we'll see how it works out. But I do think Nebraska is going to win a national championship, either this year or next year. I don't see Harper Murray leaving Nebraska without a national championship. So hopefully that will come true this year. But it's going to be an exciting season. Kicks off tonight at 6. Looking ahead on Sunday, they're playing 6th-ranked Stanford. That's going to be at 2:30 Eastern on ESPN. So 2 nationally televised matches. Of course, Nebraska is always a great draw, whether it's volleyball, women's basketball, anything. If you put
the Crown tournament.
Yeah, the Crown. If you put the women's bowling team on ESPN, they'd probably draw pretty solid ratings. So
I really want to get into this year, and maybe we should cover again. I don't know too much about wrestling. I feel like this wrestling team needs some coverage on here.
Yeah, I think they're gunning for Penn State. If there's a team, if there's a Nebraska athletics team outside of volleyball that can realistically win a national championship in the 25-26 calendar year sports year, it's the wrestling program. Mark Manning has done an incredible job. They just landed, I think AJ Ferrari is the name, former national champion, added to the lineup. They lost Ridge Lovett, who won the national title last year to graduation. So yeah, if you're a wrestling fan, it's a great time to be a Nebraska Cornhusker.
Yeah, for sure. And you said teams realistically that come in a national championship. I still have my fingers crossed for football, so maybe this is the year.
Hey, I didn't, but did you see that EA Sports, they ran 50 simulations this season in Dynasty mode, and in one of those simulations, Nebraska won the national championship. So
maybe.
So there's a chance. So you're telling me, like Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Imagine
do you even get that reference? Have you been watching?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm too. I've tried not to date myself too much, but because
only when it comes
sometimes
to only when it comes to podcasts. And if Matt Rule can win a podcast and win a national championship, if Matt Rule can have a podcast and win a national championship, people's heads will absolutely explode.
Hall of Fame, put him
Hall
in
of
the Hall
Fame.
of Fame. Well, I mean, if he does
Yeah,
win a national championship at
he may
Nebraska,
end
he
up
does.
there, like realistically, one day.
If he wins a national title at Nebraska, he will be 100%. But
I meant college
even
football Hall of Fame, but Nebraska Hall of Fame, absolutely.
but I do think the college football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If he because he's won three pretty good, Temple and Baylor, a lot of degree of high degree of difficulty, I'd say. And then if you could build Nebraska back into a championship program, that would be, nobody would think that that's possible. I mean, it is possible, but it's got to that point where you're like, is it possible? So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's like Theo Epstein when he built back the 04 Red Sox and then the 16 Chicago Cubs. I mean,
Yeah.
that right there is worthy of a Hall of Fame accolade, and that would be similar, I think.
Yeah, it would be really fun. It would be fun to see. I just want to see this team in the playoff again, Like I want to get back to where we win 9 games every year and we're not we don't have to talk about firing our coach all the time, and so we don't have to talk about losing 20 whatever games a row it is to ranked teams, stuff
Or
like that.
one
Stuff
score
like that.
losses, that's my favorite one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to be done with all those conversations. So
I don't want them to
hopefully,
ruin my weekend. That's all.
yeah.
I'll set the bar low.
Hopefully that this year will be that year that Nebraska starts taking the step forward. We believe that it's going to be. So make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get in the comments, but make sure you turn those notifications on as well so you don't miss any of our content. We'll be back on a Saturday morning for another one of our chats. We'll talk about the volleyball match and look ahead to game week. Game 1 is less than a week away. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.